Okay.
And you have historical stuff. That would be the big difference with those. So
I'm gonna ask and see if we're on.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Utah Hockey broadcast here at the Salt Lake City Sports Complex. I'm Anita Tachia. I'm here with my stalwart partner. I'm going to call him my partner.
Hey.
My partner, Patrick McGann. And we're here for our women's one hockey game. They're hosting the Wyoming Cowgirls. And the Cowgirls are new to the WWCHL, the Western Women's Collegiate Hockey League. And this is their first year, and this is only their fourth game.
Oh, wow! It's cool to see University of Wyoming fielding a hockey team at the women's level here, and I like the jerseys so far. We're happy to have them here in Salt Lake City. It kind of reminds me when Utah started. It's great to see a program in the Western United States getting its humble upbringings, and happy to have Wyoming here today. And I'm looking forward to the contest this afternoon.
And similarly to how Utah was in the early days, Wyoming's got a rather small team. They're quite a bit shorthanded. In fact, even smaller than I kind of expected, but their roster is going to be indeed short, so the guys will be doing some extra shifts. They are struggling a bit in the early season. They have not won a game yet, and unfortunately they've been getting, having to get beaten. We are going to have a brief pause after we introduce our goalies for Utah. We're going to have a brief pause for the national anthem, and we will return. All right, welcome back. And as I was saying right before we broke for the national anthem, the Wyoming team, they're new. They've got a very small team, again, kind of reminiscent of those early days for Utah. Their starting lineup is going to be at forward, 11, Mary Raygold, 16, Hadley Justison, and 19, Katrina Ludwig. And the defenders will be 25, Margaret Gormley, and 10, Megan Weidler. In goal for Wyoming, their only goalie is number 1, Paige Hansen. And I apologize in advance for if I'm mispronouncing a few names. I want to welcome any of our University of Wyoming listeners to our broadcast. I'll do my best to try and include everyone so that you could enjoy watching the game. For Utah, our starters are going to be at forward. It's going to be number 4, Gracie Capps, number 17, Caitlin Yarrow, and number 21, Camden Harris. And our defenders will be number 3, Samantha McCain, and number 10, Valerie Stevenson. Utah's got 3 goalies who've kind of been pretty much swapping starting roles all throughout this beginning season. Tonight it's going to be 30, Sarah Olson.
Great to see University of Wyoming come out. That's kind of always a university that I said, given their logo and their colors, like that'd be a great university to have a hockey jersey. And now we get to see them here live on home ice here in Salt Lake City. And I'm looking forward to the matchup between the Cowgirls and the Utes.
And it's kind of interesting. I was trying to look up the mascot for Wyoming, and it turns out that originally it was the Cowboys. But of course, we're now in the 21st century, so they've adopted the Cowgirls, which I think is perfectly appropriate. They also have some really interesting travel jerseys. It says on the back, that is not their nameplate, it says Letterbuck. And of course, the front is the Wyoming logo, which is a saddle bronc rider on the front of the jerseys. And we're off. And Wyoming's, again, had a bit of a rough start, but again, that's fairly typical when you join the conference as a new team. And it takes a while to kind of get things figured out.
Absolutely, and Utah knows that all too well. They were this exact team not too long ago.
And the puck's kind of bounce around. It's still loose, so no whistle. And Valerie Stevenson skates it in the circle. She goes for a shot, but it bounces off a skate. And now here's Wyoming's got a chance. That's going to be Mary Raygold skating it through the neutral zone, but she doesn't have any support. Now here comes somebody. Looks like it's going to be Megan Wiedler, and she's going to dump it into the Utah zone. Stevenson picks it up, tries to send a pass up, but nice wrist shot there by Ludwig, but it bounces off a skate, bounces all the way out. I think I might be mistaken. I had Katrina Ludwig down as a starter, but it looks like that might actually be 18, Sullivan Ralston. All right, now back in the Wyoming zone, and the Wyoming goalie, Paige Hansen, has to squeeze that in her glove. Now, this poor gal is the only goalie for Wyoming, so we're hoping she doesn't, hoping she doesn't like lose a strap, have an equipment failure. Wyoming team, they're new. They've got D2 goalie last again, kind of reminiscent of those early days for Utah. This gal's been facing all the shots, and actually has a fairly decent save percentage. And we're off. It's 0.8 save percentage. And considering how many shots she's had to face. Wyoming's been losing by, unfortunately, double-digit figures, so she's faced a lot of shots on goal.
It says 48 goals against here, and I've been a long supporter of the save percentage as a metric to kind of be a better judgment of a goaltender. Right. Goals against average is, I would say, to me, goals against average, that's a stat that more reflects your team more than it reflects the goaltender itself. The save percentage is the more important metric there, and having a save percentage of 0.8 with 48 goals against, I would say that's actually pretty good.
Right, because again, it's, and poor Hansen misses the rebound that comes off her chest. She doesn't realize it in front of her. She's looking off to the side, and it looks like, who was it who picked up that rebound and popped it in? Valerie Stevenson had the first go at it, and it looks like that was Attica Nielsen who was there for the rebound. I'm just guessing that because she was the first in the congratulations line. So Utah gets on the board first, 18-14, 1-0. And for those of you joining us, if you haven't figured out already, Wyoming will be defending the goal on your right on your screen, and Utah in their home whites will be defending the goal on your left. And, I think this is also a nice chance for Utah to really play some of the players. And here comes Bailey. She comes down. Play some of the players who maybe don't get quite as much ice time. It's a really good time to, because no matter how much you do that in practice, there's nothing like game time.
Right, and it's gonna expand the depth of the team a lot more when you get players like Anita just said. It's nothing like game time. The game situations are where you're gonna build that depth the best, and so the players that might not get the most ice time and some of your better players scratch tonight, you'll be able to get these players some in-game experience that your team's deeper when those playoffs come around.
All right, there's a shot. Nice stick save. Ends up in the corner. And it's still in the Wyoming zone. Kind of trickles out, and Hansen decides to just sit on it because she's got two Utah forwards standing right there on the doorstep. I just can't imagine how tired poor Ms. Hansen must be after 2 days of being the only person in the goal.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, she's going to get a lot of credit for it as well. It's starting the program. As we said, it's never easy, and that's what it takes. A goaltender, one goaltender, it's all you really need, and you just hope that goaltender can stay healthy. And from humble beginnings, we see this Wyoming team, and you never know, they could be just like Utah in a couple of years down the road and be, one of the best teams in the conference.
They could, and I got to tell you, I like their jerseys. They're very
I
stylish.
I love them. I'd like to see their home jerseys too, if they're gold or if they're white.
Carrick with a wrist shot, and Hansen loses it for a second, but it's actually behind her. And then Tori comes up to try and grab that rebound. Wyoming's trying to clear the zone. They're getting a little confused there along the boards, but Tori's going to go dig for it in the corner. She's being pursued by Gormley. Tori back to the point. McCain with a wrist shot from the point goes just wide. Kistner scoops it up. Ava Kistner is Utah's leading point scorer right now. I believe she's actually leading in goals as well. I'll let you look that up, Patrick. And then still in Wyoming zone, Stevenson to Carrick, back to Stevenson. She's got a chance from the circle. Lets off a wrist shot that goes wide, goes all the way around. And Tori picks it up, skates it through the circle on the opposite side, pass to Carrick. And it looks like Utah's trying to set something up here. Bai with a shot, with a chance here. She skates it down into the corner. Nice little breaks move there. Up to the high slot. Quick shot from the high slot by Baker. Doesn't quite make it through the skates. Everybody skates. Bai's trying to keep it in. She does. Picked up by Yarrow. Yarrow's going to skate it behind the net. She's looking for a little wraparound. She goes with center pass, but it's broken up by Wyoming. That's Ashley Krieger who breaks it up, and she actually starts a breakout from her own zone, but unfortunately gets away from her. Whoa, and oh my goodness. That looks like Weber lost an edge and kind of slid into the boards. Fortunately, she seems to be okay. She jumps right back up. And now Harris is going to carry across the line. Nice little drop pass to Caps. Caps in the corner, trying to get free and looking for somebody to pass to. And here comes Wyoming with their defenders. Harris to middle slot, and that was a pass to number 17. That is Caitlin Yarrow. And the puck ends up scooting all the way across, and it's going to be icing. So 14:52 left in the first period. Utah leads 1-0. I don't think the shots on goal is quite accurate. The scoreboard tells me Utah has 5 shots. I think it's a little more than that. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
The leading scorer for Utah, that would be Kistner. 7 goals, 1 assist so far in the season.
Which is pretty good for how many games have the women played now?
I believe this is, they've played 8 games so far.
So just under 1 goal a game.
That's pretty good. If you can, even if you're just under that 1 goal a game, I think most players said they'd take that.
All right, a little flurry in the crease there. Nice defense by Hansen. And the puck ends up deep in the corner. Picked up by Caps. Crossing pass, nice defense. That was Megan Wheeler stayed home and cleared that pass, broke up that crossing pass. And the puck ends up at the other end for icing. And I forgot to look up where the University of Wyoming is.
Laramie, Wyoming.
Ah, Laramie, okay.
Yeah, Laramie a little bit further away than it's further away from Utah in terms of towns in Wyoming. But yeah, Laramie, Wyoming is the home of the Wyoming Cowboys / Cowgirls.
Yeah. And I don't know if you folks can see it, but the jerseys are this dark, their travel jerseys is dark brown. It's like really nice dark coffee brown with the yellow trim.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of the University of Wyoming color scheme. I love the brown, the gold, and the white. I think it flows real nicely. I think they have, whatever sport it might be, football, what other sports are, but I've always wanted to see a hockey jersey from Wyoming, and this is the first I've ever seen. So these are great.
There you go. All right, Utah again pressing the attack. Shoot from the high point, from the point. Skates it into the circle. Utah's trying to set up a nice little cycle there. And then here comes, that's Gracie Cruikshank. Around the back of the net, through the circle. Goes for a shoot by. Goes wide, goes off of somebody's stick, but not the goalie's. Ends up behind the net. Shoots back there. Skates it out. Decides to go the other way. Tries to come around the other side. Still looking for somebody to pass to. She sends it along the boards. And I can't quite tell who that is because her hair is in the way. Sorry, folks. All right, that's number 15, Attica Nielsen. She's back there fighting for the puck. Cruikshank joins the party, comes out. And who is that? 23. Well, who's 23? Oh, Carson Beck. And quick one-timer by Cruikshank. Nice blocker save by Hansen. And Wyoming managed to get it out. I think the biggest thing I'm seeing right now is that Wyoming is trying to conserve their energy. I'm getting the feeling that we're not going to see many fast breaks because they have such a they're so short-handed on the bench.
Right.
That when they send the puck deep, they don't actually go to chase it, which is interesting because they know it would be an icing. Oh, and then we have a goal by Utah. It's going to be, looks like Grace Cruikshank. Is that right or no? Samantha McCain. Is that a 3 or a 9?
Samantha McCain looks like he'll pull away with the goal there.
There you go. So Samantha McCain at 12:24 puts Utah ahead 2-0. But kind of what I was battling on about, made me miss the goal, is that I think Wyoming realizes that better to have an icing than to run out of gas by the middle of the second period because they keep chasing after pucks when they're so short-handed.
I mean, to give you an idea of Wyoming's, how tough it's going to be for, this team to play and why they're doing what Anita said, conserving that energy, is because they have literally 4 skaters on the bench. That's it.
That's right. That means there's 5 on the ice, there's a goalie, and there's 4 heads sitting on the bench. And
4 heads sitting on the bench, correct. And to give you an idea, a forward line is 3 skaters. So they either have a forward line and a defender or 2 defender lines. Yeah, that's very tough for a team. And in Utah, it wasn't maybe that short their first year, but it was very close, and it's very hard. I remember the days where Utah would, have to play dump and chase
you were here those early days.
Yeah, and it's tough to play as a team like that, but you're able to sometimes get some scrappy wins here or there, but still it's not easy, and you give these girls a lot of credit for skating and being out here because hockey, there's a reason you take 60-second line changes. It's because you're gassed.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that they're on the ice that long when you're sitting up here, but when you're the person actually doing the skating, man, you are breathing hard by the time your shift is over.
Right, you're panting pretty hard by the end of your shift, and for these I'm sure these girls are taking 2-minute shifts, but when you're watching the broadcast or watching hockey, it always looks like there's 5 skaters out there, but they're constantly changing and getting new reinforcements out there because you are gassed after a 60, 90-second shift. I mean, if you're taking a 2-minute shift, that's considered that's way too long. Yes, yeah.
Oh, nice little sit up there. Gets by Carrig. Is that Carrig? Yep, that's Grace Carrig. And I think the other thing, just we're not trying to be cruel, but for poor Wyoming, they're now skating on ice that's a few meters wider than usual, and we're at altitude.
Right.
And I believe Laramie is pretty close to sea level. I don't think they're up in the mountains.
A little bit higher up, probably about I'd guess 2,000 to 3,000 feet, but we can figure that out.
Yeah, so they aren't, at least not at sea level, but this is going to be a bigger ice. So, and a shot there from Ella Weber. Point goes wide. And Utah cycling the puck into the corner. It goes behind the corner. Kistner sends it all the way around to, looks like that was Bailey. She sends it up to the point. Pimentel with a wrist shot. Oh, it was deflected by Kistner. That was very nifty, but it goes a little bit wide still. A one-timer, another save. And Wyoming comes up with it, and they go for a breakout. That looks like that's number 10, Megan Weidler, trying to start something, but she loses the puck. And here comes Utah across the blue line. That is Grace Carrig. She skates around behind the net, goes for the corner, out to the circle. She goes for a centering pass, broken up in the middle by Wyoming, by Sullivan Ralston. And Utah decides to drop back, regroup, and start another attack. Nice stretch pass up to number 17, Caitlin Yarrow to Harris. And nice save by Hansen. She sits on it.
Yeah, Laramie, Wyoming, this is, I feel like I remember hearing this before, which is why when you said that, it kind of took me a second to process, but 7,200 feet.
Oh, so they're higher than us.
They're higher than us, so this should actually be
easy.
More air for them, I guess.
Shouldn't say easy, but yeah, easier breathing. It's interesting. I don't think people realize how much the altitude makes a difference. We have right off the pads of Hansen, I don't think she realized it, almost trickled up over her shoulder into the goal, but it did not.
Yeah, you mentioned that elevation. That the players from the desert schools that come up here, they'll tell you that it does affect you. That first night, that Friday night when you get off the bus, you start feeling it like halfway through the game. You know, that energy starts to dwindle faster than it would, you know, in a home game down there in the desert, whether it's, you know, Tucson, Phoenix Metro, or, you know, Las Vegas. They you know, these players will come in and they'll say, yeah, that first night, halfway through, that's when it'll hit you. You'll feel the gas, you know, kind of emptying in the tank, and you know, it makes a difference. And then to add on top of that, like Anita said, it's an Olympic-sized ice sheet, so there's even more ice to skate with. So it's kind of a, you know, ruthless combination when it comes to hockey. You got to play at 4,500 feet, which for most schools, maybe not for Wyoming, but for most schools, that's quite a bit higher than you're used to.
They're used to. Yep. All right, that's Carson Beck trying to skate it in. She gets tied up by a defender. We've got a major league and a minor league men's soccer team here in town. And the minor league men's team, there's actually a sign above the locker room, or the visiting locker room, saying these are the signs of altitude sickness. Just to give them the heads up that you're actually at altitude. So if you're not feeling well, go find a trainer and make sure you're okay. All right, and now Utah brings it back out in the neutral zone to start something up. Oh, nice little poke check there by Mary Raygold. She tries to start something and loses the puck, so now they're fighting for it right there at the blue line. That's going to be Sullivan Ralston joins the party. And Utah regains control, and now they start something. Here comes, is that Grace Carrick? I can't quite see, I think so. Wyoming breaks it up. Now Alex Bai is going to skate at the circle. She passes it up to Crookshank, who goes for a backhander. Nice stick save by Hansen. Hansen's really doing a pretty good job. Another save, pad save by Hansen. Puck ends up in the corner. Crookshank goes in there after it. Whoa, and it gets by her, and it gets by Weber, and Weber's got to go dig for it in the corner. She's joined there by number 10, Weidler from Wyoming, and Utah comes up with it. Whoa, and she loses an edge, but manages to stay up. That's shoot. And speaking of shoot, Alex Spy throws one in the net, top shelf. Utah now leads 3-0. 6 minutes, 20 seconds left, 26 seconds left in the first period. I didn't realize what a great name Mary Kate Shoot has. Her last name is Shoot, as in shoot the puck. All righty, we have a face-off at center ice. And we are off again. Utah controls the puck. Here comes Bailey skating through the slot. She tries to set up a pass to Bai. And Wyoming managed to break it up. Having trouble getting out of the zone, having trouble controlling it. Puck is kind of bouncing around. It's going to end up in the corner. And puck still on the boards. Finally, it looks like Bailey comes up with it. Bailey comes up with it. And here comes Wyoming trying to start something, and it gets poked loose. Nice little poke check there by Bailey. Fighting for her is Krieger. She's not going to let her just have without a fight, and then Utah dumps it in deep. Krieger picks it up behind her own net, tries to send it forward. Bounces around a little bit. And finally, the Wyoming team, it looks like Krieger, again, she sends it deep so she can go and give her team a line change. I was having a kind of a fun talk with women's head coach, Utah women's head coach Braden Yo, about what she thought of this year's WWCHL. And we both agreed, I mean, she's seen a lot more of it than I have, but we both agreed that we do think the women's league, the Western Women's Hockey Collegiate League, is stronger this year than last year, which, again, I feel a little bit bad for Wyoming coming in this year, but we talked about some of the teams, and she was talking about Arizona in particular is going to be even stronger than they were last year. They were very successful recruiting this year, and it looks like they got. Did I miss a goal? I'm so sorry.
Looks
folks.
like, yeah, Curry got a goal there for Utah.
All right. This is what happens when, you start rambling on about something else and then go and try to look up your notes. All right. So, Carrick with the goal. I did not, of course, see the assist. And it's interesting, the referee is skating over to the Utah bench. Not sure what that's about.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Is there a confusion about a line change? That's very interesting.
Oh, I think I believe they were talking. I'm not sure, but there was a player on Utah. I couldn't quite see who it was. A few minutes back, who tried to attempt the Michigan. I don't know if you know what that move is, but it's
tell us what it is.
So it's for those of you who are not familiar watching the broadcast, it is basically a player starts behind the net, and they basically try and cradle the puck onto the blade of their stick and use that momentum and swing it around and kind of lacrosse it like a lacrosse stick.
It's like a lacrosse move.
Yeah,
right.
almost like a lacrosse move. Yeah. And so there was a player from Utah who was behind the net who tried to do that. It didn't quite work out. There was a Wyoming defender there. But the referee made that little
that motion,
like the player trying to do it. And I think the referee was saying, let's maybe not do that. It's one thing to play a team that's starting out, but it's I think maybe the referee's just saying let's just not do that today, because that might have been the conversation, because I also heard some laughing from the Utah bench. So maybe saying like, hey, you're in trouble sort of thing. But yeah, I think that might be what the referee said.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with that as well. I mean, we don't really want to showboat,
I mean,
fancy moves.
Yeah, Utah. I mean, they should know that better than anybody. This is a team that was, like we've been saying, a team that was in very
they
much
could see themselves in.
Yeah, and there's a couple. There's a couple of girls actually, rostered today and playing that were playing in that season, and they know exactly how it feels. And yeah, I'm sure it feels nice to finally be on the other side. But yeah, for Wyoming, it's it's like we said, it's tough, but
it's going to be some growing pains for Wyoming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of what I was rambling on about was that talking to Braden Yo, the team to beat this year is, in her opinion, and I what little I've seen so far, I think, I would be on board with that, is Arizona State. They were good last year, and then during the break, they recruited quite a few new gals, and I believe she was saying like 4, maybe 5 of them they had actually managed to recruit from an NCAA, that have NCAA experience. There's a couple more that are, they have eligibility into the grad school, which of course it doesn't matter what year you are in
right.
college.
Graduate students can play.
Yeah, it's all about your eligibility. So they've got a lot of maturity and experience, and she's anticipating they're going to be better this year than they were last year, and they were really good.
And they were pretty darn good last year, right?
Yeah.
So it's a strong conference, and it's it's really cool to see that, especially with hockey in the Western United States. It's whether it's the M1 level, the M2 level, or the W1 level, that there is a lot of talented hockey out here, on the Western United States. And for Wyoming, it's actually really cool, because you're joining, you're going to get a really tough schedule and know what it's like to play the best teams in the country. And I think, like you always say, to be the best, you got to be the best, you have to play the best. So yeah, it'll be good for Wyoming to grow their skill and see really talented hockey teams.
And I think again, it's one of those things where maybe in the beginning you're going to curse it, but a couple seasons down the road, I think you're right, Patrick. They're going to be glad that they aren't just like in a cupcake league where they can just skate in and play like
right.
like rec hockey, right?
It's it's anybody can play hockey and get a team up going really good against weaker opponents, but it takes time and dedication to be the best at the best level. And I think it's good for Wyoming if they join a good conference and they join a good the W1 level instead of the W2 level. Nothing against the W2 level, but it just kind of goes to show that they have some moxie. Hey, we're here and we're gonna play some hockey, and we're here to stay, and let's set up a talented program.
And I think that's an important point. It's like we're here to stay. We're not just joining on a whim, right? Surely they knew what they were getting into. Wyoming knew what they were getting into. They were getting into a league that was pretty competitive. So, I think again it's that idea of, hey, we're here to stay, and oh, somebody's going to the penalty box. That would be number 25 of Utah, Ella Brenner. I missed the hand signal because we were too busy waxing on about our philosophies of, the benefits of high-level competition. But Utah is going to play shorthanded for the next 2 minutes. Let's see if we can take a peek and hear what it is.
Looks like it was interference.
Interference, all right. And for those of you who are not aware of interference, it's basically playing the player when the puck is not you're not actually playing the puck. You're playing the player and the puck's not actually anywhere near your stick. So usually it just means you're getting in the way of somebody's actually trying to get to the puck. Something in oversimplified terms like that. So.
Interfering.
Yeah, interfering. Can't remember what the difference between interference and obstruction is, though. That one always trips me up. And here comes Valerie Stevenson. She's got a great wrist shot. And right on cue, she lets one rip, and nice blocker save by Hansen. I still am just totally entranced by the fact that they have letter buck on the back of their.
I love it. It's great.
That's awesome.
When I first came out on the ice, I'm like, oh, someone's last name must have an apostrophe in it. And then
I do the same thing.
I see the same thing on every jersey, and it's cool. I can't get over how cool these jerseys are for Wyoming, and love the slogan. Love it.
And they're not cheap jerseys.
No,
right?
no.
They're very nice.
You can tell you can tell the stitching is real nice on these jerseys, and you can tell they're new, and they look great. Like I said before, I love the Wyoming colors, and hopefully AJ doesn't hear me say this, the general manager of the program, but I'd wear one of those. I would. I'd wear one of those in public. Those are great jerseys.
Yeah, if you still hear a lot of scuffling noises and Patrick's mic goes dead, that's because the GM came over, headlocked him, and dragged him out of the booth. And I say booth lovingly because we're actually just sitting at a table right here out on the concourse.
Yeah, let's hope he didn't hear me say that. But I'd also wear a Utah jersey too, to be fair. So there's a lot of hockey jerseys I would wear.
You're a jersey connoisseur.
I am. I love them.
Oh, a little bit of a wrist shot there by Caps. Still goes off the post, I believe. You know more about the nuances and histories of jerseys than I ever would. I don't pay very much attention to that stuff. I'm never very good at that stuff.
That's okay. You can just say I'm a nerd for jerseys.
Yeah, you're a jersey nerd.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a connoisseur of sorts, but I love, and the thing that's really cool about the ACHA, I mean, you can say about the NCAA as well, because there are plenty of teams in the NCAA, but the ACHA, this is fact. This is literally a fact. There is like double the amount of teams in the ACHA that there are at the NCAA level. And so there are so many teams and so many different jerseys, and it's amazing to see. I love seeing all of them. Like California was here last weekend.
For you every time somebody comes to town.
But it's cool. College jerseys are a really cool thing, and I think it's a really fun conversation to have. Just talk about all these different schools and their jerseys that they have. Because if you ask someone from the East Coast who's a big hockey person, University of Wyoming, they don't know what their colors are or their jersey are. I would be willing to bet that that's the case. So, seeing these jerseys, it's like, wow, these are University of Wyoming. Maybe it's a school that most of the country doesn't know much about, but you see their colors, like, wow, it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, pretty darn cool. Well, we're going to take a short break as the two teams take their short break, and we will be back shortly for the second period.
Welcome to the Rocky Mountains.
Welcome to open trails and new vistas.
Welcome to stunning Red Rock.
Welcome to the greatest snow on earth.
By the tree of broken glass, where the home.
Welcome to game day fun.
Anything could last. So
Welcome to Pac-12 Sports.
Welcome to world-class research.
Welcome to the arts.
Welcome to real-world experiences.
We can go to that bridge that crosses over fear.
Welcome to a great education.
Love and what it does to those they hold near. So let's run till the water.
Welcome to new friends.
We can toss our worries far away from our hearts. And if you listen,
Welcome to the time of your life.
not hear them calling out our names, calling out our
Welcome to all you can imagine.
though we might fade and fall, we'll keep on standing tall. This world is in our hands. So get up and grab it, walk and see. Those gray clouds look close, but we have come and gone.
Welcome to the University of Utah.
So get up and grab it, walk and see.
Thanks for calling the Salt Lake Visitor Center. If you have any questions, please leave a message and we'll get back to you.
Hello! I tell you what, I'm just going to put you on speaker. All right, a little about me. I'm a bit of a phenomenal skier, so I want to take my family on a vacay, which is short for vacation. Hope you don't mind the abbreviations. I'm just short of time today, so I need to sort of hurry things along. Just a few simple questions for you. They call Salt Lake Ski City, but you do ski in the mountains, right? I'm just picturing myself skiing down the sidewalk there next to the shops. Knowing my luck, I'll do one of my big flips and end up in the traffic. So I don't want that to be the case. Look, I've got to go. You're really keeping me here. Although I will say, I'm going to see your Utah Jazz play a basketball game. And I've heard there's a couple of Australians in the team. So here's my question. Are they causing you any trouble? I just had a thought. The average snowfall near Salt Lake is 500 inches. If I was to utilise all of that to build a giant snow person, would that be majestic or a bit scary? Oh, hey, listen, just quietly. I'm a big family guy. You know that, I've told you that. But after a few days with them, I'm going to need a drink. That's legal, right? I hear Utah has the youngest population of any state. So if I was to head down to one of your hot rockin' clubs or a social event, would there be a youth person in there that might be able to explain Snapchat to me? My kids just won't do it. Now, I've heard there's a bit of a Sharks versus Jets rivalry between the skiers and the snowboarders. And if I made that movie, would you watch it? Oh, when was your last Yeti sighting? Are you getting all this, by the way? I'm assuming you can rewind. The Utah state bird is a California gull. I mean, even you've got to admit that is confusing. I guess that's more of a statement than a question, but still I thought I'd bring it up. Now, your Ski City Super Pass, I take it that's part of the Marvel Universe. If I get that, will people call me the Winter Soldier Man? I really wish you could see this. All right, well, this will be costing me, so I better go. Thanks for everything. Bye.
Hi, this is Beth from the Salt Lake Visitor Center calling you back to answer your questions. First off, yes, you can absolutely drink here. We'd prefer if you ski in the mountains, and I'm happy to call you Winter Soldier.
My name is Marguerite Van Komen, and I'm a snowbird ski patrolman. My dog's name is Frank. What a good boy, huh? What a good boy you are. I start every morning waking up and having breakfast with the dog, and then we finish every day having dinner together, but everything in the middle changes. We train them using their own instincts, so instead of hunt for dinner, they're hunting for humans. A lot of thought goes into choosing these dogs. Number one, they've got to be able to handle the cold. Number two, they got to be pretty hardy. And three, we're looking for very high drive dogs. The dog that is gonna chew your sofa up at home, we want that dog. The people, the mountain at Snowbird, it's just special. And everything you wanna do is here in Salt Lake. Get off the plane, grab your gear from the luggage cart, and within 30 to 45 minutes, you're up here and skiing on snow. You know, Salt Lake is super unique. We have 4 full seasons. So you can come up, ski all morning till the snow gets a little too smushy, and then you go and hit 18 at the golf course at the bottom of the mouth, and then you can go out for a wonderful dinner and see
All right, we are back and about to start the second period of play. Of course, Utah is leading 4-0 against Wyoming. And Ms. Brenner has just got 2 seconds left in her penalty. And she'll be able to come out and the team's be back to full strength. And we were remarking during the period about how the Wyoming goalie, Paige Hansen, has faced 25 shots on goal that first period. So she's going to have a busy night. And we also remarked that a lot of the players who we're watching tonight are players who don't get as much ice time, which is pretty sensible. So you want to make sure they're always ready in case someone gets hurt or you need to make some changes. And we're very close to start, I believe. I'm not sure. Looks like everybody's getting ready. And of course, as you know, the teams will swap goals. So now Utah will be defending the goal on their right, on your screen right. And Wyoming will be defending the goal on your left. That Utah's waving to Ella Brenner in the box because she's standing up because she's only got 2 seconds. So as soon as the puck gets dropped, she pretty much will come out of the box. And sure enough, she arrives in time to join the rest of the team. I also want to send out a huge apology to the Shutt family. I've apparently been mispronouncing Mary Kate's last name, so I apologize. I did get your message, and I apologize for that. So hopefully I will get that right now for the rest of the season. I do appreciate that, and I thank you for reaching out and correcting me. All right, and now we've got the puck in the Wyoming zone, and Bailey sends a pass up to Weber, but it ends up getting deflected behind the net. And Stevenson keeps it in, wraps it around. Whoa, and a little bit of a edge lost there by Ellsworth behind the net. She gets back up, sends it behind the net. Krieger picks it up behind her own net, sends it along the boards. Oh, and then it looks like Raygold was trying to handle the puck and loses an edge and goes down. And Utah still got it, keep it in their zone. Still keeping it. Looks like that is Ms. Nielsen skating into the corner. Comes back around and she passes off. Sorry, now is that Cruikshank? Can't quite see the number. That's Gracie Cruikshank, I believe, with a backhander. That's like kind of one of her favorite moves, is she likes to skate forward, then make a quick turnaround, and then try and do a off the back of the curve of her stick as opposed to the front curve. It's kind of like see if she can deke the goalie to go the wrong way.
She has the skill for it, that's for sure.
Yeah, she does. She does. And it must be nice as well because now she's got a little bit of more support even for in terms of offensive power. I think one of the things that we were really missing last year was just another line that could shoot and score.
The more of those you have, the better your hockey team will be.
Yeah, right? It seems obvious, I suppose. All right, and speaking of which, she skates it down, and nice pad save there by Hansen. One of the other things that we were kind of chatting about last period was the shape of the WWCHL. Again, I'm going to rely on head coach Braden Yo, her thoughts as we talked about it. And we were talking about Colorado, who last year, and Gracie Katz goes with a skate-by shot at 17:46. Making the score now 5 Utah, 0 Wyoming. But Colorado last year won the WWCHL tournament, postseason tournament, which gave them a qualifying bid to go to the national championships.
Big upset against Arizona State, and I remember, I think Utah lost to Colorado in the playoffs. I can't remember. No, I think Utah might have beat Colorado in the playoffs. I'll have to take a look at the sheet, but
look at the sheet.
It's
in there somewhere.
I know there was kind of a jumble of wins there, and I remember watching that game. Colorado got that upset, and
And she was pointing out that that's not the first time they've been to nationals, that they have a pretty strong program historically, and they actually have been to nationals. That was their second time in a row. But then what she's noticed is that they get to nationals and they struggle. And to me, what that tells me is that, we need the conference to get stronger. And again, I'm a guest on Chris Perry's WCHL podcast, and he mentioned that one of the things he thinks makes a conference stronger is to go out and play teams outside of your conference, because that then, one, it gives you kind of that reality check of what the rest of the country is doing outside your conference, but also it tends to make your own conference stronger, because then you come back with that experience and that knowledge, and you know what you need to do to get better. And I'm not sure if the WCHL, how the other teams do, if they do that sort of thing. I know that, for example, Utah does that. They just had that trip a couple weeks ago to Michigan, and I believe it was specifically for that purpose. A.J. Bolden, the GM of the Utah hockey program, has worked he works a lot with the national ACHA people, so he's well aware of that, I'm sure, as well. And I suspect, I can't say that I know what he's thinking, but I suspect that might be why he does that. I know the other men's programs as well, they often will try and schedule these out-of-conference road trips, and I suspect it's specifically to try and get stronger and get that experience, and then bring that experience back into the conference, which in the long run makes the conference stronger.
Yeah, so that's what I remember. So last season, Utah did beat Colorado. So they opened up the playoffs playing Colorado. They beat Colorado. It was an overtime win, a great game, 1-0 game. Then Utah lost to Arizona State 5-0 to knock them out of the playoffs. But it's kind of like a funny thing where, Utah beat Colorado, but Colorado was the way the tournament was structured. They ended up actually winning the tournament. So Utah can say they beat the conference champion last season. But yeah, there you go. Colorado makes the playoffs there with that auto bid, but ASU ends up making it on the computer rankings. But yeah, that just goes to show you it's a strong conference. And Utah this season, they actually got kind of a free win from Colorado. If you look on the schedule, they had a forfeit win.
That's right, and it was in Colorado.
Yes.
And my understanding was there was a problem with scheduling officials.
That is what the problem was, and I think Colorado is going to come back and play us on a bye weekend in the spring semester, I believe.
And in the meantime, Ava Kistner puts another goal on for Utah at 15:55, so the score is now 6-0 Utah. But yeah, that was one of those things that, it was something weird with scheduling. I knew that, and then we've got a player down in the corner, and fortunately she's all right.
Yeah, and actually, crazy enough, the WWCHL tournament, which invites 4 teams every year, the top four teams, and Utah actually finishes 4 out of 4 in that tournament. So not, the finish they want, but GCU actually ends up getting that last leg up. So they finished 3rd in the conference, conference tournaments, and Utah finished last. So you already know that the coaching staff from this Utah team. Well, first of all, it's expected at this point that they qualify for the tournament. Last year, I remember it was pretty close. It got close towards the end, but I think now at this point, the coaching staff expects it, and if it doesn't happen, well, she don't want to be in that locker room, but...
I don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be
a fly on the wall.
Yeah, but I think it's expected they make it, and I think this year the expectation is, all right, let's do some damage, because they know they can now. And so, yeah, but like you said, Anita, Arizona State, really good, right? So that's going to be a team that Utah has to watch out for. I mean, they already got swept by the Sun Devils this season. They actually won't see them again. So, you got to keep an eye on them.
Oh, unfortunate goal there by Hansen. That was a goal by Pimentel from the point, and Hansen, I don't think she saw it. She went down kind of late. She didn't get her stick across the 5-hole, and it slid right between the pads and into the goal. So that will be Pimentel scoring goal number 7 for Utah. And like I said, Hansen, who has been exemplary so far, she was a little late getting down, and she seems to be a butterfly goalie, and so she didn't put the stick down to cover that 5-hole, which is exposed for the butterfly style. And that puck wasn't going very fast. I think she just didn't see it, and it just, next thing she knew, it was down there in the goal. But yeah, the other thing that was kind of interesting in my chat with Coach Yo is that I asked her, I said, so who do you think the sleeper is this year? Who's the team that, maybe people aren't going to see coming? She really thought it was going to be Colorado State this year. She feels like they've recruited well, and she also feels like at the operations level, the program's a little bit more organized than perhaps it has been in the past. And so she thinks they're going to be a team to watch this year.
And they're currently 6-1, from what our stats say here. So I'd say she'd be right with that sleeper pick. As yeah, I mean they've only lost one game so far, and that's pretty impressive for a team that didn't look too impressive the last couple of years, but.
And they also had a quick trip, I believe, to the Midwest. I know they lost to Michigan State, who has a pretty good program, 2-4. Utah lost to Michigan State 3-4 in overtime. So both those games, fairly close games. So I think that's a good kind of common yardstick. Do you remember where the WWCHL tournament will be this year?
That's a good question. I know it's not here.
Right, we know it's not here, and not at Oceanside.
I don't think it's at Oceanside again.
Because that was last year.
But we can see where that tournament's going to be held in Boulder this year, Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, so it'll be hosted by Colorado then?
Yes, University of Colorado will get to host that.
And it looks like we have another penalty against Utah. And that is going to be... trying to look at the number, folks. I'm sorry. It's just going to be Ella Weber, and she's going to go to the box and sit for 2 minutes. I did not see the penalty hand.
Outside of I'm not sure if I think Denver is in the WWCHL. Denver, Wyoming, Utah, but the CSU start is actually all it looks like out of conference wins. I don't believe I don't know if Montana's in the WWCHL. Montana State, that is. So all of their wins are coming against the weaker WWCHL teams and some out-of-conference games. The Grand Valley State wins in Michigan, those are quality wins, I would say. And then that loss to Michigan State, that's a good quality loss right there. So I think it's going to be a team that's going to match up really well with Utah this season, and it's going to be who knows, Colorado State, they could put on a little bit of a run because they were one of the teams that were fighting to get into the playoffs last year with Utah, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to want to get it back. So Utah has a great chance to, come back and really Colorado State has a chance to come back and with a chip on their shoulder and improve themselves. Utah will actually go to Fort Collins and play Colorado State in a couple weeks, November 11th and 12th. That'll be a key matchup to watch. If you're a WWCHL conference fan, circle that one because that's going to be a huge matchup.
And I did overhear the call, and so it's going to be Ella Weber's got 55 seconds left in her penalty for a body check. So apparently she must have put on a full check on her opponent. So that's what she's sitting for. And of course, in women's hockey, they do not have they do not allow full checking. So that's called a body check if you actually go in and actually hit somebody. And right now, Utah's still successfully killing the penalty, and it'll be interesting to see how this season turns out. Because, like I said, Coach Yo also feels that the league is stronger this year, and it's again it's good. I think it's going to be a good thing. It's exciting to watch women's hockey really grow and develop. And some of these Midwest teams, man, I tell you, those gals they're powerful. The Liberties and the Minot States, their women's programs
those are
just as good as the men's.
Yeah, I mean that's an area of the country where hockey's more of a mainstream thing. So those are girls who, maybe I shouldn't say been playing their whole life because there's a lot of girls out here that have been too. But I mean the skill level out there. You ask a lot of people, Eastern United States, Upper Midwest. That's where a lot of skilled hockey players are coming from. So it's a good measuring stick, like you said, Anita, when you go out and play those Eastern schools and those Midwestern schools. And that's why, and like you said, that's why they get scheduled, right? That's why at the beginning of the season, a lot of these teams will go, before they start conference play, they'll get out there and they'll go play the Michigans, they'll go play the Grand Valley States, the Aquinas, all these schools out in the Midwest or, whatever it may be, and kind of test because there's a lot of good hockey out there. And there's not, at the WWCHL, the W1 level, there's not a lot of Western teams, and there's a few good ones so far. But to this point, most of the good hockey's on the East Coast, and that's changing, but that's why you see teams go out there and schedule those games.
So we just kind of wanted to briefly also mention that the reason we've stopped play is we've got a player down who's just getting examined, just getting checked over. And of course, you know, in college sports, it's always about making sure we have our athletes are staying safe and healthy. And the trainer is just out there inspecting one of the players. It looks like it might have been the goalie Hansen, but she's, you know, on her knees. She's putting her equipment back on. She's getting ready to play, get back into play. And I just thought I'd mention that since you know, it might not be obvious what exactly was going on and why we had a stoppage in play. But looks like she's good to go. And we will have a face-off. I think that happened when she made the save. I didn't even see what had happened. If, you know, she went down funny or somebody ran into her, but we are going to restart with a face-off to her right. And, of course, there's 5 seconds left in the penalty to Weber, and she'll be out shortly to join the team, and there she goes. But, yeah, what you were saying, Patrick, you know, those even though they were losses in the Midwest, those are what you would call quality losses, right? They weren't cheapos.
So, it sounds kind of funny to say a quality loss, but I mean, that there is such a thing, and you know, it's a metric that I shouldn't say it's an official metric, but you know, you hear people talk about it in college football and such. But yeah, I mean, a quality loss, it kind of just shows that, like, yeah, I mean, I'd say Utah's lost to Michigan. That's a good quality loss, but you know, maybe disappointing because it's a team you know you probably could have beaten. And good for Utah. They get to see him again in a couple weeks here in Salt Lake. But, yeah, I think for Utah, at least it was a successful Michigan trip. It looks like for Colorado State, they did the same thing, go 2 of 3 on their Michigan trip. So, you know, good all around for some of these WWCHL teams. And that's just good for the conference, right? You go all the way out east, and you go 2 of 3 against these East Coast teams on the road after all that travel. Yeah, okay, that's impressive. Those are good wins.
Absolutely. And, you know, like I said, I mean, I think the whole point is that you don't want to end up getting too claustrophobic by only playing in your conference, because then you get a false sense of reality. What happens is then when you finally leave the conference, because it's postseason now, you got to go play the big boys at nationals, or even say at regionals before you get to nationals, and it turns out you're not ready because, you know, your conference just wasn't as good as the other conferences who show up.
And I think that's, you know, not to talk down on any team in the conference, but I think that's happened to Arizona State a little bit, because within the last couple of years, you know, before kind of Utah showed up and you know, I think it's a team that would usually steamroll through the conference because they are such a talented hockey program. I mean, Arizona State, whether it's the women's program or the men's program,
the men's, that's true.
They just pull in stud hockey players, and you know, they're really good at recruiting, getting players to go to their school. And you know, I think Arizona State for a long time, you know, just kind of ran this conference, and now there's a couple other, you know, newer faces in the conference knocking on the door, and it's good for Arizona State. It's good for the teams knocking on the door, whether it's Utah, CSU, Colorado. It's good for the whole conference, and you know, add that skill in. But yeah, like you said, out of conference, those are really important metrics, because those, I mean, it's not guaranteed you're going to play a conference team in nationals. In fact, at the W1 level, it's almost guaranteed that you won't play a team in your conference, just because it's hard to get, you know, there's less teams, so you know, less teams from the same conference make it. Like last year, the WWCHL sent 2 teams, and that's the max they would most likely ever send. Maybe 3 if, you know, one year the whole conference is very strong. But you know, it's just goes to show you that you know, like Anita's been saying, the out-of-conference games, like when we started this conversation, the out-of-conference games are a huge metric in the ACHA. It doesn't matter what level you're talking about. It's just a massive metric to square your team up against, you know, the nation's best, and it gets you ready if you want to go on a little bit of a nationals run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, again, I mean, if you're, think of it from your standpoint, if you're the coach and you're the team, you know, there's nothing worse than feeling like you're ready and showing up at the district championship or the nationals and realize, wow, we really underestimated the other teams that we're going to have to face. But how would we know? Right, exactly, right. You don't know, because you say, okay, we won our conference. That's all we can do, right? That's all we can. In the regular season, the best thing you could do is win your conference. Okay, that's great, but is it a weak conference? Okay, it could be. If it's a weak conference, you're going to go to playoffs and maybe get embarrassed, and that's just kind of part of how it is.
and that exists, right? That exists in the ACHA, where there are some conferences that are weak. There are some conferences that are very strong, and they'll go and either steamroll or they'll get steamrolled. And it's all about getting it balanced out. And I think it takes a lot of time for that to happen, to balance it out. But the more you encourage these out of conference games, and for Western teams, it kind of stinks because there's way more teams in the Midwest and the East than there are in the West. So there's not opportunity to play teams in the West that are out of your conference, because most of the teams in the West are in your conference. So you got to go on a long trip to make it happen, or ask a team to make a long trip out to you, and it's not easy to do that sometimes if you're a general manager. So that's why they're a little bit few and far between. You usually get one long trip every year where it's 3 or 4 games in one state or one region, like the Great Lakes region, or like last year the New England region. But it's good to have those games, but also it is, like, logistically it's tough because it's not necessarily these teams aren't necessarily granted the same maybe I should say luxuries that NCAA teams are granted when they travel, because let me tell you, it's not chartered. It's just you get on a Southwest Airlines flight with some other folks, and they're kind of like, what the heck's going on? Why is there like all these hockey players on this flight right now? And then Southwest.
Especially when you're waiting at the luggage cart, that must be kind of fun to watch.
There's a lot of hockey players on this plane, huh? It's like, geez Louise. But it's cool though. I think it's even cool for these players to get that experience too, like to fly out to the East Coast, right? Because maybe some of these players, grew up in Salt Lake City or wherever it may be, and they.
And guess what? Shutt family, celebrate! Mary Kate Shutt scores the ninth goal of the period. I also wanted to mention Ella Brenner got her second goal before this one. So Ella Brenner got her second goal of the second period that gave Utah the 8-0 lead. And now Mary Kate Shutt gets a goal in there, and so the score will now bump up to 9-0 with 7:10 left to play in the second period. But, yeah, excuse me, Patrick.
No, I'm very happy the game interrupted me.
Yeah,
but, it's like I said, it's cool for these players to get to have that experience, to go travel out that way, because some players might not be from that area, and it's an opportunity to see a new place and play a new hockey team and see what hockey's like in different regions of the country. So I think it's cool to have those big long road trips. It might not be fun in the moment to travel that much, but I think you ask any of these girls and they'll say, yeah, that trip was awesome. Getting to play at Yost Ice Arena, that's an experience that most of these girls, if not every single one of them, will never ever forget, because that's just one of the coolest buildings in all of hockey.
Hockey Mecca. And as we speak, Grace Cruikshank, last year's goal leader for the Utes, scores a goal with 6 minutes, 49 seconds left in the period. And now I believe that makes it 10-0 Utah.
I think that was cool too. I think we're actually we're set to talk to some of the players more about that Michigan trip and kind of interview them and see, and get some content out to talk about how cool it was for those girls to
podcast that you and Alex King are going to put together. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so there will be an episode where we talk about that Michigan trip with some of the players and see how how much they liked it. And I think that's awesome that the University of Michigan lets their club teams play on that rink. That is amazing that they let them do that, because how athletics, how the differences between club sports and athletic sports can be maybe a little bit of a toxic, maybe not relationship's the right word, but exchanges can be kind of like, well, you're not part of athletics, so you can't use the venue. But I think that's really cool that the club team for the University of Michigan women's hockey team, they get to play in that building. That's great for them. That's amazing. That's really cool for them as a team, and it's amazing. Any team that goes in to play Michigan, they're never going to forget it. And that's a game that GMs from all around the country are going to say, yeah, I want to go play Michigan because I want our girls to go play at Yost Ice Arena. That's pretty freaking cool. But they talk to some of these girls. There's going to be a podcast coming out soon. It'll be called Patrick and the King, a Utah hockey podcast, and there'll be player interviews, coach interviews. We've talked about it. I think we talked about it last week a little bit, but yeah, we're gonna sit down with some of the players on this team, and they're gonna tell us how it was playing at Yost Ice Arena. Big jumbotron, big windows, 5,000 seats.
And people to fill them. I mean, if I recall right, they get pretty good crowds for their.
Oh yeah,
Michigan gets pretty good crowds for their club hockey.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
because they have a men's club hockey as well.
Yep, they do, and they have men's club hockey. They have women's club hockey. Obviously, the team Utah played. They obviously have NCAA. That's why the rink is there. But I just think that's any school that does that, even if there's other schools, and I think Arizona State's going to be a school like that too. Mullet Arena down there in Tempe. There's a lot of politics going on with that, just because an NHL team has to play out of there for the next 4 years. But the goal is to have all hockey teams, the women's team, all the men's club teams, and the NCAA team play in the same building and get to experience that, because the players who are playing at the NCAA level, they do earn that right to play in that venue. That they've earned that. They're really talented hockey players, but to have your other hockey players play there and other teams get that experience too, that's perfect. That is really cool, and it goes to show you that club hockey is college hockey, as there's a saying out there, and it's really cool, and I can't wait to hear what these girls have to say about going to Yost, because I've been there a number of times to see to see the NCAA team play there, and oh my goodness, that's hockey heaven right there. I can't say enough amazing things about that venue, and I'm sure these girls would say the same thing, but they got to skate on it, so I'm jealous. They got to play on the ice. Yeah, yep. That's a priceless experience. I'm really happy that they got that, got to go there and play Michigan, and it might be a bittersweet because they lost that game, but they'll be back over there. I'll guarantee you that. I'm sure they'll be playing at Yost Ice Arena again, playing University of Michigan, and this Wyoming team too. I mean, these Wyoming girls. I'd be willing to bet that some of them haven't been to Michigan, and maybe some of them are from the Western United States and haven't had that opportunity. So a team like this, you can see it grow from humble beginnings. And these Wyoming girls, they can be playing in one of the coolest rinks in college hockey someday. You never know.
And I think that was a nice point you made about Arizona State. I do hope the politics works itself out, because Arizona State has, their NCAA coach was their club hockey coach.
Yep.
So I can't think of a better environment to then have this happy marriage,
they know what it's
symbiosis relationship that's non-antagonistic, non-confrontational between the NCAA and the ACHA teams.
Right. They know what it's like, and I think I think it'd be great if they're able to make that happen. It's kind of comical a little bit, because it's like, okay, well, Arizona State announces multi-million-dollar facility, rink, and the plans to have all the hockey teams play there, and then all of a sudden you have
the NHL,
one of the lousiest franchises that can't find a home rink, and they're going to say, well, hey, we're going to have to play in here. And folks, let me tell you, I don't know much, but I know that it's going to be a logistical nightmare. The Coyotes, they're playing their first home game there tonight. The NHL season's been going on for 3.5 weeks. They play there for this week, and they won't be there a month because of how it all works out. But I'm glad the Coyotes are the ones who are getting booted out, because it's Arizona State's facility, right? So, let the women's team play there, let the club teams play there, let the NCAA team play there. Let's make it all happen. It's their facility, right? So I think that's great, and club hockey, it's just as competitive as NCAA hockey, and these like you said, these coaches, the coaches for Wyoming, the coaches for Utah, the coaches for Arizona State, they are recruiting and getting girls who are considering going to NCAA hockey school. So there you have it.
Yep, there you have it. Izzy Hendry's an example. She played NCAA. I can't remember whether it was D2 or D3. The assistant coach. She's assistant coach now, but she played for the Utes last year. She played at a D3 NCAA school. And, it's the more we can get that sort of crossover, the better. And it looks like we've got a Wyoming player going to the penalty box, but also looks like it's Hannah Lund, number 7. Also looks like she was down for a bit. She's sitting with the trainer. She did get up under her own power, which is a good sign.
Always good to see that.
Actually, I don't think she's in there for a penalty. She's just going there to sit down.
It's the closest, nearest, most convenient spot to
rather than try and walk her all the way across the ice. So she's talking to the trainer. I certainly hope she's all right. But we're not seeing a penalty up there, so there's not going to be any shorthanded situation. And looks like we're going to have a face-off off to the right of Hansen in the Wyoming zone. Utah is leading Wyoming 10-0, and it's 3 minutes, 12 seconds left in the second period. And off we go. Utah controls. Oh, maybe not. Got a bit of a fight for the puck in the back there. Puck's still back there. Still up against the board. Bailey goes in to help. And Utah comes out with it. I'm sorry, that wasn't Bailey back there. That was Bly. I'm sorry, I'm just having all kinds of hard time talking today. All right, and Utah controls the puck, carries it in, deep. Nice little drop pass, back and forth. I'm having a little trouble with numbers. I apologize. McCain from the point lets off one-timer. It's blocked by Wyoming, and it bounces all the way back out into the neutral zone. Pimentel picks it up, and she drops pass ahead to Shut, I believe it is. In the corner it goes, and Utah's there. Bailey's there trying to keep it in. One of the Wyoming players, of course, trying to get it out. And now a nice out pass to Brenner. Goes for a wrist shot that goes wide. And the puck is still behind the net. Finally pops out. Bailey scoops it up in the corner. Sends it back behind the net. Nice, smart heads-up play. Brenner picks it up. Tries to skate to the circle. Instead, changes her mind. Sends it back along the boards to Bailey. Bailey gets tied up. Goes down in a heap. No whistle. And the puck ends up in the corner. Finally, Bailey comes up with it. She skates around. She's going to go try for a wraparound. Skates into the circle, drops it off to Bai, who sends it all the way across. Nice to Shut from the circle. Oh, she goes for a drop pass. A little bit of a confusion in Utah trying to figure out who was supposed to go retrieve that. Puck ends up behind the net. Wyoming's going to get there first, but not for long. Here comes Bai. And finally sent out to the middle. Looks like Cruikshank sends it out to the middle to Nielsen. And now back behind the net again, Cruikshank again. And can't quite tell who that is. I'm guessing that's Shut. Dropping it off into the corner to Nielsen. Nielsen gets tied up. Puck pops out. And then that is Pimentel keeps it in. And Nielsen goes and drops on the puck. Go ahead.
I'd assume that a lot of the people watching are most likely Utah fans. We hear a lot of great positive feedback from the Utah fans and families that watch this broadcast. But you might ask yourself, like, why would you want to start a hockey program if this is what it's going to be, right?
Right.
Like, look at the scoreboard and you know, you're like, these girls, there's no way they're having fun. But they are. They are having a ton of fun. Maybe not necessarily night in, night out, you know, losing by this much, but it's all about like the camaraderie and being on a team, right? And these, I'm sure the girls on this Wyoming team are having like traveling and having fun, you know, practicing together, traveling together, you know, having team get-togethers, right? Like these are things you have when you have a hockey team, right? And they have a lot of fun doing these sorts of things. And you know, you would think, yeah, okay, well, it's not fun to lose 10-0, and I'm sure these players, you know, out there right now, they're actually, you know, they're not even really focused on that, right? They're, you know, and that's what the coaching staff, and they know that too. Like, okay, we don't care about the score right now. That's the least of our worries right now. Let's go out there and try and do this. Let's go out there and try and do this. Let's go out there and have fun, right? It sounds, you know, cliche, but that's what you say, okay? Like, okay, well, all right, well, right now our breakout looks kind of weak. We know that because there's not a lot of, you know, extra reinforcements. Let's just try and take baby steps here. Let's get it out of our own defensive end, set some up in the neutral zone. If we can't quite make it there, let's dump and chase, right? And we know we may not have the endurance for that, but let's get better at the little things each and every day to improve our hockey team. And that's what Wyoming's doing. That's what, you know, Utah did. Utah was almost a photocopy of Wyoming. I mean, I broadcasted their first year of the women's program, and Utah was in a lot of games like this. They were on the wrong side of a game like this. And so, you know, it's you come from humble beginnings. And let me tell you, talking to those girls, because I interviewed all those players, they still had a ton of fun. They probably, I don't know how many, they might have won 4 or 5 games that season, and they got blown out plenty of times by like Arizona State, Colorado State, but they still had a good time. In all the interviews I talked to those girls from that first season, they're like, we're just playing the game we love to play. And that's why you love to see teams like Wyoming, hey, let's start a women's hockey program because we're going to grow the game in Laramie, Wyoming. We're going to grow the game in the whole state. We're going to get girls to come play hockey here. We're going to be a hockey center for the state of Wyoming. Great to see. Love to see it. And, you know, just they're having fun, and we're having fun up here. And, yeah, good second period.
And On that note, we're going to leave you for a bit, and we will be back to talk more hockey and more kind of big picture hockey, we hope. Don't go away. One more period left to go. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to the Rocky Mountains.
Welcome to open trails and new vistas.
Welcome to stunning Red Rock.
Welcome to the greatest snow on earth.
By the tree of broken glass, where the home
Welcome to Game Day Fun.
anything could last. So let's go and take the words that we know.
Welcome to the party!
Of thoughtful dreams. But if you listen, you can still hear
Welcome to Pac-12 Sports.
our names, calling out our names.
Welcome to world-class research.
We'll keep on standing tall. This world is in our hands. So get up and grab your
Welcome to the art.
have no trap. We are tough as nails. Come on, this is our land.
Welcome to real world experiences.
We can go to that bridge that crosses over fear.
Welcome to a great education.
Love and what it does to those they hold near. So let's run till the water.
Welcome to new friends.
We can toss our worries far away from our hearts. And if you listen,
Welcome to the time of your life.
not hear them calling out our names, calling out our
Welcome to all you can imagine.
Though we might fade and fall, we'll keep on standing tall. This world is in our hands. So get up and grab and walk and see. Those gray clouds look close, but we have come and gone.
Welcome to the University of Utah.
So get up and grab and walk and see.
Thanks for calling the Salt Lake Visitor Center. If you have any questions, please leave a message and we'll get back to you.
Hello! I tell you what, I'm just going to put you on speaker. All right, a little about me. I'm a bit of a phenomenal skier, so I want to take my family on a vacay, which is short for vacation. Hope you don't mind the abbreviations. I'm just short of time today, so I need to sort of hurry things along. Just a few simple questions for you. They call Salt Lake Ski City, but you do ski in the mountains, right? I'm just picturing myself skiing down the sidewalk there next to the shops. Knowing my luck, I'll do one of my big flips and end up in the traffic. So I don't want that to be the case. Look, I've got to go. You're really keeping me here. Although I will say, I'm going to see your Utah Jazz play a basketball game. And I've heard there's a couple of Australians in the team. So here's my question. Are they causing you any trouble? I just had a thought. The average snowfall near Salt Lake is 500 inches. If I was to utilise all of that to build a giant snow person, would that be majestic or a bit scary? Oh, hey, listen, just quietly. I'm a big family guy. You know that, I've told you that. But after a few days with them, I'm going to need a drink. That's legal, right? I hear Utah has the youngest population of any state. So if I was to head down to one of your hot rockin' clubs or a social event, would there be a youth person in there that might be able to explain Snapchat to me? My kids just won't do it. Now, I've heard there's a bit of a Sharks versus Jets rivalry between the skiers and the snowboarders. And if I made that movie, would you watch it? Oh, when was your last Yeti sighting? Are you getting all this, by the way? I'm assuming you can rewind. The Utah state bird is a California gull. I mean, even you've got to admit that is confusing. I guess that's more of a statement than a question, but still I thought I'd bring it up. Now, your Ski City Super Pass, I take it that's part of the Marvel Universe. If I get that, will people call me the Winter Soldier Man? I really wish you could see this. All right, well, this will be costing me, so I better go. Thanks for everything. Bye.
Hi, this is Beth from the Salt Lake Visitor Center calling you back to answer your questions. First off, yes, you can absolutely drink here. We'd prefer if you ski in the mountains, and I'm happy to call you Winter Soldier.
My name is Marguerite Van Komen, and I'm a snowbird ski patrolman. My dog's name is Frank. What a good boy, huh? What a good boy you are. I start every morning waking up and having breakfast with the dog, and then we finish every day having dinner together, but everything in the middle changes. We train them using their own instincts, so instead of hunt for dinner, they're hunting for humans. A lot of thought goes into choosing these dogs. Number one, they've got to be able to handle the cold. Number two, they got to be pretty hardy. And three, we're looking for very high drive dogs. The dog that is going to chew your sofa up at home, we want that dog. The people, the mountain at Snowbird, it's just special. And everything you want to do is here in Salt Lake. Get off the plane, grab your gear from the luggage cart, and within 30 to 45 minutes, you're up here and skiing on snow. You know, Salt Lake is super unique. We have 4 full seasons. So you can come up, ski all morning till the snow gets a little too smushy, and then you go and hit 18 at the golf course at the bottom of the mouth, and then you can go out for a wonderful dinner and see theater. It's amazing how much you can fit into your day. And not only do we have everything that you want to do, but we have great people to do it with. Everyone wants to be outdoors, happy, and go and play. Every day is different, and I love that. I love showing up to work and going, what is on the plate today? Snowbird is my family, and Salt Lake is my home, and Frank is a great part of that. My name is Marguerite Van Komen. I'm a snowbird ski patrolman, and I am Salt Lake.
right, and we are back for the third period. So one of the things that happened near the end of that second period is that Ms. Hadley Justison, number 16, ended up taking a penalty for roughing, I believe it was. I couldn't quite hear the call. And so she has 1 minute, 11 seconds left in her penalty, which means Wyoming's got to go on a penalty kill. And Paige Hansen, the Wyoming goalkeeper, is now up to 53 shots on goal she's faced. And she's let in 10. But, you know, for people who don't know the game of hockey, 20 per period is a lot. She's faced over 26. I think it was 25 in the first, 27
or
28 in the second. So she has faced a lot of shots. And she's got some pretty tired defenders in front of her because, again, as we mentioned, there's only 4 extra bodies on the bench. That's not even, again, folks, that's not even 2 full lines because a line is 5 skaters. So if you only have 4 on the bench, then you don't even have a full second line.
Right, yeah, like they have basically a line and a half. That's kind of like where they're at right now.
And like you kind of described it well. They've either got 2 forwards and 2 defenders or maybe 3 forwards and 1 defender. Any way you try and slice and dice it, it's not a very happy combination. And we've started the third period of play. And I think, you know, Patrick, you made that really great point about how it looks kind of dire for Wyoming, but there were those games you saw for Utah that were just as bad, and look where Utah is now.
Yes.
And that was only how many years ago?
That was 2019-2020 season. So
that's skipping the COVID season where you didn't play at all.
Right. That's skipping that season. Not short enough ago to where it happened within my student career.
Your tenure,
yeah,
right?
My tenure as a student here. I'm still a student, and it's less than 4 years ago. So, I mean, we've been saying it, Utah, and I'm sure those of you watching, with ties to the team have seen that, that Utah experienced the same thing, and it, like we said, it's might look like, why would you even ever want to do that? But, you asked that question because, I'm sure there were people who asked that question about Utah, and like Anita just said, look where you're at now. So Wyoming could very, very well be in Utah's position in, a couple of years.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up is that one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is you were talking about, the Yost Arena, Ring.
Yep.
And that you were going to get a chance to talk to the players. Tell me a little bit more about this podcast where you're going to be able to, we're going to get to hear about kind of these experiences. What's the structure? What's the, who's your co-host?
So, first I'll say that there's a podcast for Utah hockey that will air pretty soon. It's called Patrick and the King, the Utah Hockey Podcast. It's hosted by myself and former M1 player Alex King, and it'll hopefully be a weekly thing once we get it up and going. We've recorded the first episode 2 weeks ago. It's kind of outdated at this point, but we've had some difficulties, and also obviously time concentrated in other aspects of the program and the teams, but hasn't been posted yet. But at some point, the goal is to do a weekly podcast and talk the week that was in Utah hockey. So, what happened last weekend, what were the scores, what were the games like, yada, yada. And then move into, okay, what's the weekend ahead in Utah hockey? What teams are playing and where are they playing and what are the stakes and, whatever that may be. And then there'll be some interviews, some coach, player, whoever it may be, interviews, people tied to the program, and the goal was, immediately like, all right, well, let's do an episode on the Michigan trip for the women's. That'd be a cool thing. I'm sure they'd love to talk about that trip. Like I said, going to Yost to play and winning 2 out of 3 on that trip, and just kind of the adventure that it was, right? Like they had to go. They flew into Detroit International, and they flew out of Chicago Midway, right? Like that's kind of that's
hockey country.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's hockey country. You're in Chicago, whether it's not for it's a little bit, and you're in Detroit for a little bit, then you're in Grand Rapids, and you're in Ann Arbor. I mean, Ann Arbor is one of those classic college towns that people rave about. It's a really, really cool place. They got to go there. Got to experience that. They got to experience, traveling, throughout some of those bigger Midwestern cities. And
you are from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And you will recognize this term. Chris Perry used the term, and I had forgotten about it because I grew up in the West, talking about traveling the Rust Belt.
Yep. That's it. That's the Midwest. There's Michigan, parts of Illinois, parts of Wisconsin, parts of Pennsylvania, all that. The Rust Belt. Yep. But
and named fondly for its long history of industry and manufacturing.
Yes.
And working with steel.
Yep.
You Midwesterners are proud of that name. Correct?
Yeah. It's we're definitely proud of. Especially when you come out to the Western United States, where a lot of Midwesterners, I'll include myself, are pretty proud of the fact that they can handle the cold. I'm sure every Westerner is like, okay, we get it. You can handle the cold. You're really cool. Do you want a gold medal or something? But yeah, that's especially. I mean, a lot of the people who are in this Utah hockey program are from Minnesota, so it's like, even those Minnesotans, like, oh yeah, we can handle the cold, eh?
Yeah, exactly. All right, and we have a score again by Utah. That's going to be our number 18, Gabby Borbola. And she handled that. That was a little bit one of those things where, again, it was a rebound, and Hansen was unable to corral the rebound, and Borbola was waiting right there, and it was pretty easy, just tap it in. She was standing right there in the crease and didn't have a defender on her. I believe that was that a power play goal, or was the
either way,
I think
that's
the penalty was already expired by then.
Good timing.
Sorry about that.
Gabby Borbola from Michigan, played for Michigan State.
Oh, there you go.
For a long time. She played on the W1 team in East Lansing over there, and that's another place where I'm sure she can talk about it. The hockey culture out there, and how it's it's
that
kind
would
of
be
crazy.
An interesting perspective to have her out here in a Western team.
And
I'm one of those California people who the two seasons in the California I lived in were wet and dry.
And isn't it like Fogust and I've heard of No Sun, or it's gloom June and all that. And
yeah, but I mean, you notice it's like just very middle of the road kind of weather, like nothing very cold, nothing very hot. Because I grew up in Northern California in the Bay Area, so we don't have, we don't have snow, and we don't have, typically, well, these days, but we don't. Oh, another nice shot there. We don't have the super warm temperatures either, or the humidity that, for example, you have in the Midwest. And that looks like, I'm sorry, I can't see her number. Is that 15? So that's Attica Nielsen. I believe that might be her first goal as a Ute. She scores that goal, and it was a nice wrist shot. She just skated up and spotted her corner and top shelf. But yeah, we like I said, I'm one of those Californians who grew up in the Bay Area of California, where the weather is very mild and temperate.
Perfect weather. I'd call that really nice weather.
It's pretty nice weather. I quite remember it fondly.
I know some people who are from Southern California, and they can't handle what they would call, quote, the cold of the Bay Area.
The cold of the Bay Area.
Yes,
I know, right?
yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you a secret, just between you and me and a few of the fans listening. We Northern Californians have been complaining about Southern California for a long time. But no, I mean, you are right about the wimpiness to the cold weather. It took me a while to kind of get used to real seasons. But now that I've been in Utah, actually I've been in Utah longer than I've lived in California anymore, I'm quite fond of the four seasons.
Yeah, well, you get fall colors, you get snow.
I like snow. Well, now that I have a snowblower, I like snow.
Oh, yes. Yep. You're going to want one of those. That
it took me
makes
a couple seasons to figure that out.
Yeah. That's it's a little bit loud, but I remember 14-year-old me being ecstatic that I get to take this thing out and blow snow off the sidewalk. I was really excited about that. Now I'm happy the University of Utah does that for me.
That's right, because it's only fun for a little while, and then you get the 4-foot snowfall followed by the warm weather, so the snow gets really heavy, and you're out there like trying to push the thing, and it's like, where's the snowblower? That's it.
It'll dump 2 feet of snow in the valley in Salt Lake, and then the next day it'll be sunny and 40 degrees, and like you said, that snow really quickly becomes
cement.
Yeah, it becomes it's more than a chore. I'd say it's a full-on task at that point.
Yes. So like I said, I really became much more enamored of winter once I figured out the convenience of a snowblower.
Yeah, the folks watching from Laramie, though, I mean, they're they can. I mean, parts of I'd say like parts of the eastern part of the western United States, like out in the higher elevations of Wyoming, it gets really cold. So they
that was an excellent save there by Hansen. She had to cover a skater that was Yarrow coming across, and she made a really nice move to cut off the angle and make that save. But yeah. Well, I am looking forward to that podcast of yours with you and Alex King, and I'm sure he's actually got quite a few stories because he's one of the skaters who actually was with the men's team when they were D2, and then was part of the team when they made the transition from D2 to D1. So I would love to hear those stories as well.
He is, as he's been called before by some people in the program, royalty of Utah hockey. I mean, he's been here for a long time. He's put a lot of work and dedication into the program as a player, and now as a coach with the M1 team, he's coaching, and he's been around.
Glove save there by Hansen.
He's been around for a long time, and very stand-up guy, very respectful guy, and he's he's the type of guy you want leading a team, and he did that for the Utah for a number of years, captain on the ice for the M1 team. So it's really great talking to him. Really good talking to him for the podcast and getting to know him and talking Utah hockey and getting Utah hockey even more so on the map than they already are, and talking W1, M2, and M1, all the teams, and it's going to be really fun. I can't wait till we get to the interviews, talking to coaching staff and the players. Like I'm really looking forward to hearing about this Michigan trip, because I can rave about it, and I can't wait to hear them rave about it, because like I said earlier, they got to play on the ice, not sit in the stands.
Yeah,
they got
You're
to
jealous.
Get
the skates on.
Yep.
Strap the skates on.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited. I'm really excited as well because, I've actually lamented about this in some of my guest visits with Chris Perry that, I want to see more coverage. I want to see more promotion for the women's team and even for the men's 2 team. Women's hockey just does not get the love.
It doesn't.
And I'm biased.
And
I want to see more.
It should. I mean, it's a shame that the game of the women's hockey game, it is, it's fast, it's furious. And you know what? I found myself, the first year of the program when the women's team, when they were, in close games with Colorado State, when they were the underdog, the clear underdog. Right. But it was amazing to see these girls fight through. And just looking at the program now, the games I called my first year at the program, it's night and day, and it's really,
it is, isn't it?
It's amazing to see. I love the amount of, I love the vengeance and the fury. It's like, okay, Arizona State beat us to this recruit, so we need to go get our recruit, or it's like, okay, Arizona State swept us on their home ice. Okay, we'll see you in the playoffs. We'll be back. And I love watching the women's hockey game, and it is a little bit bigger in the eastern United States, but still not big enough, right? It needs to be a mainstay in college hockey, right? It's really fun to watch, and hey, I hate to say it, but Team USA, who's the better team? It's the women's team. It's the women's team who's competing for gold medals.
Which team is bringing medals?
Team USA men's team, what are they doing? They're not even getting a medal or finishing on the podium, let alone making the knockout stages of the tournament. They're usually just playing group play, and it's okay, you might be, you're average, you're good, you're in that top 5 in the world, but the women's team for United States and Canada, those are the better teams. Those are and debatably the more fun teams to watch, because it's competitive hockey, I personally think the girls, they bring much more passion to the game. They show it more, and it's really fun to watch. And I think it's great that growing the W1. The W1 level of ACHA hockey, and I think it's really cool because I'm going to give you some credit here. You like you say, you hop on that WCHL podcast with Christopher Perry, and you say, "Hey, I'll hop on only if
I didn't talk." That. Oh my God, you're going to get me kicked off the program.
No, but I think it's good. I think it's good that that you're saying, "Hey, let's talk women's hockey," because it's good hockey, right? And there's good women's hockey in the Western United States.
Well, and I have to give kudos to Chris Perry because he was gracious enough to give me some time to talk about that. I didn't actually twist his arm. I actually waited for the opening.
Joking around.
No, I know you are. And Christopher is a really gracious host. I just waited for that little door to crack open, and then I just kind of like weaseled my way in as quickly as I could. But again, I'm going to get on a little bit of a podium here. I'm old enough to remember when Title IX hadn't trickled down to the public school system. I actually was in a public school, a high school, that had almost no women's sports, and all the money, and this is high school, went to men's sports.
Right.
So for me...
That's not even the professional level, right?
No,
like,
and this is a public school. It's not a private school.
Right.
So, for me, it's always about, giving women's sports their due, because
the respect it deserves.
When you talk about medals, we're talking like Tony Granado's little sister was winning gold medals. Now, that's a long time ago that most of these people who are listening, I bet you don't even remember. So the chance for us to be able to have our own platform at Utah Hockey, the opportunities I try to seek, when I can, when allowed, if I don't get kicked off of that podcast. Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Hopefully Chris didn't hear me.
Yeah, it's really important to me that the women get their due, because I'll tell you, these women, they're fast, they're strong, they're passionate, and they're amazing athletes.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
They deserve their time too. So
absolutely.
I'm thrilled to hear that there's going to be a podcast where I know, at least if it's our program, right, we can have some say.
Yes.
I'm not saying we as in me, but I know how invested our GM, AJ Bolden, is making sure women's sports get their due. And it's very gratifying to me to hear that we're going to have a platform we can then give them some of that spotlight.
Yes, and I like I said, I haven't been around the program for a long time, but I've followed the program before I came here, and it was just one team. I remember watching games, and it was just the M2 team, and they would roll over teams. And then they moved to M1, and they struggled for a little bit.
They had to get beat up a little bit.
And that's kind of when I came to school here, and my first year, and I talked to AJ, and I'm like, he was a little bit impressed about some of the stuff I knew about the team. He's like, wow, you've been watching, in high school, and I was like, yeah, and he's like, well, this year we're gonna have a women's team, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I mean, obviously it was the first year of it, and there wasn't much news about it until the team was actually fielded, but I thought it was fantastic, and I'm fortunate enough to where I joined the first year of the program, and it's been I can't say this enough, and I can't I almost sound like I'm kind of understating a little bit, but it has been a pleasure watching these girls play, because they are how much they have grown, and there's still a number of players on this team that were around for that first season, and how much their skill has grown, how much the team's skill has grown. They went from a team where, maybe like this Wyoming team right now, a team where you're like, okay, we're probably going to win tonight, and it's probably going to be a little bit of a bigger win, to now, now you can run with Arizona State, and you can run with Colorado, and you can run with all the other teams in your conference, and have expectations where the coaching staff now Coach Yo, she's saying, if you don't make the playoffs, it's expected that you make the playoffs, and if you don't, let the heads roll.
Right, let the hoods roll. And there's one of those shots you don't see that often. I'm not sure if that was on purpose, but it looked like, right, was it Gracie Capps banked that off of the boards, and it hit the goalie in the back. The goalie didn't have enough time to turn around and went in the goal. I've seen one of those in the men's game, and I know that one was not on purpose. That was last year, Kai Conte. He was just trying to bounce it off the glass, right, and get it to pop out into the crease, but instead it bounced high off the glass, and the goalie turned the wrong way, and it hit him on the opposite shoulder, and it bounced in the goal.
Yeah, unfortunate for goaltenders, because there's not much they can do.
Nope. And that's also, typically that's a sign of not having enough defense there to be able to help, kind of chase that puck away and make sure it doesn't bounce off of you, behind you. So we're now at 13-0, and
I think
like Wyoming's calling a timeout.
I think it's time to bring up Paige Hansen again, the goaltender for Wyoming. So if you take a look at the stats right now, it's about in the ballpark. She's saving about 80% of the shots. So it's matching up with her goals against
her
right
saves,
now.
Her saves coming into the game.
So if like saying that, okay, she's saved about 80% of the shots. In hockey, like professional hockey, even at the pro women's level, that's not acceptable, right? That's at professionals, you want to be above like a 900 or a 915, but saving 80% of the shots. you would say, okay, well, they're losing 13-0, but she's faced almost 60 shots on goal.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think it's pretty impressive. And to keep going, I mean, it's also, hockey is very much a game of, yes, that's what I was going to get to. Yes, like it's very much a physical, and, hockey players are big and they're strong, but it's a mental game. And no pun intended, especially for Wyoming, but getting up on the horse after that, continuing to get up on the horse and ride, as they would say, the Wyoming Cowboys, let her buck.
I would be willing to bet anything that Ms. Hansen is one tough cookie. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
mentally, to get beat up like that, knowing you're going to go into the game probably getting beat up like that.
Yeah.
Who
It's
amongst
a tough.
you could go in the pipes and say, I'm going to go out and get basically get pantsed in front of all these people?
And again, it goes back to that question, like why does she want to do that? And she does it because she loves doing it. She loves going out there and playing the game of hockey, and that's amazing to see. The love for the game is what trumps all in most situations. And she's out there. I guarantee you all these, just like Utah was, just like every program is every day, but especially at the beginning, you're out there because you love the game. You're not out there expecting to necessarily make the playoffs or make a lot of noise in your conference. Like, you kind of know that your first year and you have literally like 9 skaters. That it might not be a successful season, but what you do know? You know that you're going to go out there and give it your all every single day. You know that you're going to get better every single day, whether it's 1% better or whatever it is. You're going to go out there and get better. And I think it's highlighting. Okay, yeah, it's 13-0. You might think I'm kind of just talking just to talk, but I think it's important to highlight that because, like I say, almost 60 shots on goal. Most goaltenders don't even see 60 shots in a night, right? So saving 50, saving whatever it is, in the ballpark of, 40 shots, that's impressive. That's something that, you can grow from and say, okay, well, I did give up a lot of goals, but I also saved even more. So.
Well, and, again, it's kind of goes back to that stat you're talking about, why you like save percentage versus GAA, goals against average. She doesn't have a whole lot of help in front of her, so she's literally carrying the team more than a lot of other goalies will. And she knows that. Again, the responsibility of knowing that you are not just the last defense, you might be the defense for 2/3 of the shots that you are facing.
Yep. And considering you have tired players out there who actually their bench was
they're looking pretty
4
tired this period,
and now the bench is 3. So, but yeah, like even just for the next 5 minutes of this game, or even go back, you can watch the performance here from Paige Hansen, and there's a lot of sound, good technique there. The butterfly, like we said, she's made some good saves in the butterfly position, and she's been able to get that pad down and that blocker up. There's a lot of positive things you can take from her performance tonight and expand on them and say, okay, you're doing really good. Unfortunately, there's only 7 other skaters on the bench that can really help defend the goal. So it's not all your fault, but I'm sure she would say too, I can get even better.
Right. And, I'm also seeing with the Wyoming team, they're still fighting all the way to the end.
Hard.
I mean, they're outmanned, literally.
Right.
They're, their legs are tired because they've slowed down quite a bit, and I don't see a single one of them giving up at all.
Nope, they're not. Then they're not going to, because they're out there because they love it.
They're jumping off the bench to replace their line mates, right? And they're hustling down the ice, and they're still fighting for every puck.
And I know this is a big thing in college hockey, and I've heard it with the coaching staffs here too. If the players on your bench are sitting down, that's a bad sign. The coaching staff, they'll yell and say, "Get up, get up, support your players."
They want you in the game.
And most of the time, I mean, right now, granted, the Wyoming just made a line change, so not a good opportunity for me to bring this up right now because they're sitting down. But most of the game, those Wyoming players, they've been standing up. So like I said, they're sitting now because they just got off the ice. And like we said before, it's being on the ice for that, for a long period of time takes a lot out of you. But they're up and they have the energy, and that's what you love to see. And that's why I like the women's game more, because I think there's more positivity involved with the women's game. Whereas the men's game gets a little bit negative when your team's down. You're just kind of like out of it and you're kind of done with it. But I think I've seen more positivity involved with the women's game, and that's what makes it fun, because no one likes to be negative, right?
Well, hopefully nobody does, but my thing is that women athletes take just as much pride in their skills and their the sacrifices they make as any man, and they work just as hard. I'm not going to make the claim they work harder. They work just as hard, And they have skills, you know.
Oh, I mean,
you and I getting on the ice, we'd look pretty silly if we were trying to stand up against any of these gals, including the Wyoming team.
Oh, I would get my bell rung by any member on either of these two teams. It wouldn't be pretty. I mean, I'd get deked out of my shoes. I'd be on the ground like, oh, okay, there she goes down the other side of the ice and scoring on my team. So that, I mean, just goes to show you there's a lot of great skill on both these teams and in the WWCHL. This conference, it's a talented conference. I've gotten up on my soapbox before, but it's I love to talk about it because it's fun, and we're here because we love it too, right? Like a lot of the work is
you
we're here
didn't get the big bump in salary. You must have missed the memo.
Yeah, I must have. Yeah, but at least I'm here because I love it. So it's the game we all love, and it's great to see, and I just love seeing the players have fun. That's the best part, and then also obviously winning. That's fun too.
Yeah, winning is fun.
Yeah,
I'm still enough of an old jock that winning kind of fixes a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's. I was just watching a clip a couple days ago because I was watching some baseball and the Yankees got knocked out, and it was their old GM. I forget it might have been. I don't know if it George Steinbrenner or something like that.
That's the owner.
Oh, I'm sorry, the owner. Yeah, and it was an interview, and he was like
Joe Torre, not Joe Torre.
It was one of the Steinbrenners, and it was an owner, and he was saying, I hate losing. I hate it. And he's like, I take it personally. And I think I thought that was pretty funny. But he was dead serious. So
right. You and I would think it was funny, but usually, they're dead serious.
No, he wasn't smiling. He was like, no, I take it personally. Like, you're coming here and you're coming here to win. That's professional sports. This is, two hockey teams that are very young. Utah hockey program, 3 years old. Wyoming hockey program, brand new. So, you can't necessarily have that mindset right away because you're honestly not going to go that far. If you're going to have the mindset right away saying you're expected to win every single game, and if you don't, we're going to have some problems. Okay, that's unrealistic. Let's back it up. Like I said, let's do the little things. Let's win the period. Let's win the shift. And move on from there.
Right, and I think it's important. It's especially important to remember that sort of things if you're the Wyoming side, because if you focus too much on the score, then in a way you've kind of defeated yourself.
Yeah, and I don't think they are. I really don't think they are. I think they're they're focusing on just getting better every day, whether it's 1% better, 2% better. It's just focused on and having fun and being out there. And enjoying it because, as much of a physical grind as it is, you want to be out there because, you love being out there. And as soon as you're not loving it, then that's a separate conversation. But, like we said, they've been skating hard this whole game, and that's been fantastic to see.
And we're winding down to under a minute now. And, again, Utah is leading 13-0. It is a tough one, but, I look forward to seeing Wyoming in the years to come, honestly. I'm happy to be here like you did and experience the joy of watching them grow.
Absolutely, yeah.
Next time they come to town and watch them play.
It is really, really amazing to watch a team grow. And, Wyoming being probably one of the closest, maybe the closest school now in the WWCHL to Utah. I'd love to see I'd love to see a rivalry. The bordering states. Whatever you'd call it. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but we'd have to figure that one out. But
maybe
I'd love to see
the I-80 Classic or something.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good one. That's a good one. But yeah, I look forward to seeing like maybe a rivalry develop, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of Wyoming in the years to come because like I said, they're close by, and the cool thing is Utah plays them again tomorrow, and they go to play in Laramie later this season as well. So
hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Paige Hansen. I think she played fantastic. Before we sign off, I just wanted to mention that because I just think she played fantastic. I hope she's got something left for tomorrow.
I hope so too. I hope I hope they keep their heads up. Wyoming does because. People here
Take heart. Utah was there three years ago.
People here in Utah at the Utah hockey program with the women's program, we know what it feels like to be there because that was us less than 4 years ago.
Right. And that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, right. And it wasn't that long ago. And I think that's one thing to think about moving forward if you're Wyoming, but also, if you're Utah, but if you're Wyoming, you're like, you know what? Look at that team. We're going to be that someday, but except we're going to be better.
Right. Well, thank you again, folks, for joining us. Don't go away. We've got men's 2 coming up, and they're going to be hosting the USU Aggies, who I will have to check my stats. I believe is probably the team with the best win-loss record in Utah, right? Best Utah team in Utah right now.
Definitely one of them. You can even say one of the best in the West right now for M2.
And then tomorrow, of course, the men 2 will host Weber Wildcats, and the women's D1 will host the Wyoming Cowgirls once again. Thank you for joining us again, and we hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Until then, please take care, and we'll see you soon.